Yep, we're live now.
Right, it's 7 o'clock. Good evening, members and officers. It is 7 p.m. My name is Councillor Paul Bell. I'm chairman of this first meeting of the staffing committee for the Shadow Council, Wellingborough Town Council. I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting this evening. Members and officers, can I ask you to mute your microphones, as this will avoid interference during the meeting. May I remind you of the virtual meeting protocol that you have previously been provided with, and the meeting is now live. So I would like to welcome any members of the public who are joining us tonight. You will be aware that this meeting is being held virtually. I would be grateful for your patience should there be any technical issues. For the benefit of those that are serving, the Town Council is using the Zoom platform to bring you this meeting. Firstly, can I do a roll call? Members, can you please confirm if you're present? Councillor Bell are here. Councillor Anslow?
Here.
Aslan?
Here.
Councillor Graves?
Here.
Harrington?
Here, Chairman.
And Councillor L. Lawman?
Here, Chairman.
And Councillor Carr?
I'm here as well, Chairman.
I haven't forgotten you.
That's right. Don't worry.
You look quite worried then. Right. Thank you. I'm moving to the agenda. There are no apologies for absence. Has anybody got a declaration of interest? Right, it doesn't appear anybody has. So thank you very much. We're now going agenda item, options for appointment of a permanent clerk. Members, you have before you a report, and we've asked officers to bring forward on proposals for the appointment of a permanent clerk for the Town Council. You'll also receive a copy of the presentation that Danny Movie from Northamptonshire County Association of Local Councils gave to us at a recent informal meeting. Danny's not in attendance tonight, but he's on standby to join us to answer any questions we may have to if it requires it. You'll see the report highlights the legal requirement for a town clerk responsible finance officer who will have a major role in establishing the Town Council, promoting elections in 2021, liaising with the newly elected members, and negotiating for future services with Northamptonshire Council. We'll also ask officers to provide information on costings for a business finance officer, which is also detailed in the report. Mr. Darcy, is there anything else you'd like to add to the report, please? I've lost him. Are you there, Sean? Over to you, Sean.
I think most of our officers have disappeared.
No.
Only Leesy's around.
We have a technical problem. I think Sean's coming.
It says he's talking, Chairman.
Are you muted, Sean? We can't hear you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yeah.
We
Right,
can't
brilliant.
see you, but we can hear you.
I think it's my, yeah, I'll have to turn the video off. Just kind of, I think, bearing in mind, we've tried to captivate all the discussions we've had and the timing of the appointments and the posts that we're going to recruit for. So we've budgeted for sort of midpoint on the scale, both posts, and clerk.
Sean, you're breaking up. We can barely hear you.
Obviously.
No, we haven't heard hardly anything.
Everything's captured in. I'll try coming out and back in again so I can answer any questions.
Okay. I think we'll move on anyway, and then we can ask Sean when he comes back in. Right, members, it's over to you. Anyone who wants to go first, don't forget to use your hands, please. You've got the proposals for possibly 2. You might even want 3. You might want to have a town clerk and a finance officer and an administrative officer. Yeah, I can see you, Laura. Is your handwork as well? That's it. Laura.
I was
I'll
trying
enter.
to find it. I do apologize.
I know,
I've been
keep
in too
moving.
many team meetings today. It's different. I'm quite concerned about the financial figures that have been put in front of us. It is more than twice to what we had expected, and were advised previously by the MD to budget for. I would like to propose that we don't resolve this, but we recommend it to the full Shadow Town Council to discuss, because the other opportunity that we desperately need is the actual finance committee to finance and governance to sit and discuss this and see the full financial impact. At this precise moment, we don't know the amount of income we will have. We cannot set a high precept for our Shadow Town Council and for the Town Council, and I feel we are setting up the Town Council with huge cost that we can't at this precise moment in time justify.
Right.
Thank you.
Okay. Tony? Take the mic
Thank you,
off. That's
Chair.
it. Good.
Yeah. Thank you, Chair. I will echo that actually to what Laura Lorman said. And how can we actually preset this if we don't know what's in the budget, or we have the money or not? You know, unless we have the actual facts and figures, obviously then we can work on that. And I would just go along with the proposal A.
Okay. I've got Liz.
Thanks, Chair. I don't know if Sean wants to come in or not, but can I just clarify, are you saying that you want to delay the recruitment to a later date, or are you not in agreement with the level of the job description and the level of salary that you're before you? Is it that you think that that's okay, but for a later date when you've got more certainty? Because what we do need to consider is, if you don't recruit to the town clerk now, how you will have that clerking facility post vesting day when Carol and Fiona and Sam, who are currently the project team, will 2P across to Northants, and we don't have an arrangement with Northants for secondment back to support the town council. So we'll need to consider what resources you need post vesting day, and we'll have to try and get something in place if you don't recruit your own clerk.
Right. Tony, Aslan, please.
I think others' hands are up before me, but I can go along with that. No, I'm not saying that we should not recruit staff for that. Obviously, we need to. It's just the budgeting of it. Can we afford it? That's the other question we've got to ask ourselves. As you said, Liz, we need to have that in place. Obviously, that's the foundation of it, the starter pack, basically, we can say that. We employ and recruit these staffs in order to get the whole system kick-started.
Okay. Councillor John Paulcart.
Mr. Chairman, I can clearly see where Councillor Lorman's coming from on this in regards to finances, but I can also see where Mrs. Elliott is trying to give us some guidance. If I can be so bold as to make a suggestion, I personally think we should go for option 2, with the fact that a finance officer should be part-time, certainly to start with. However, I think we should send that recommendation through to the finance committee, which is basically what Councillor Lorman is saying, and I think which is also what Mrs. Elliott is basically saying, to give it some kind of endorsement. That's what our recommendation is. As Mrs. Elliott is clearly also saying, is if we don't start marketing this job role now, this person won't be in place. And I think they've really got to hit the ground running. It's going to, even if we were to advertise it tomorrow, they've probably got 3 months notice that they've got to give. So they're probably not going to start until March time, which isn't that long before the council actually sets itself going, so to speak. They need to get their feet under the table to try and help whoever the new town councillors will be. So I'm very happy to propose option 2, but with the recommendation that it goes through the finance committee before approval. And it's
Okay. That's like, sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off.
No, that's basically, that's all I wanted to say, Mr. Chairman.
That's all right. I'll carry on going through the speakers. Councillor Anslow, Valerie?
Yeah, I'd actually second what John Paul has suggested, because I do think we should be, we need to be aware that we haven't got long, and to advertise and to appoint before vesting day is going to be quite tricky. But we don't want to make that decision without knowing what the resources are. So I think a recommendation on the lines of option 2 would be good. So yeah. I would second that.
Okay, I'll keep that on. I've got Councillor Laura Lawman.
Thank you, Chairman. Can I seek some clarification, because 3.2 actually says to appoint a full-time town clerk and also recruit an additional post of a part-time, full-time business and finance officer. So that recommendation needs to be changed. We haven't got the budget for that. And at this precise moment, as I would like to reiterate, we do not have a meeting. I have tried to get a meeting together for the Finance and Governance Committee in early December, and unfortunately it was pushed back to the 22nd of December. And we are seeking to address that, because that isn't right, it isn't good enough. We need the Finance and Governance Committee to actually look at this very, very closely before we take a decision. And the interim town clerk is a given. The town clerk is a given, but not at that figure. And we need to take baby steps, I'm afraid, until at least the end of December. And therefore, I would not vote for option 1. Certainly not for option 3 as 102,000, and commit this council to the shadow council to £102,000 before the Finance and Governance Committee has even been inaugurated and has had a chance to discuss it in great detail. All I'm asking for is that the proposed action is a recommendation to the Finance and Governance, as Councillor Carr said, but also to full council before we take a decision on that. And that is a decision that the full committee or all shadow town councillors need to take, with the full input from the Finance and Governance Committee. I have discussed that with my vice chairman as chairman of the council, and he had reservations as well.
Right, I'll keep that. I'll just get through. I've got Liz Elliott.
Thank you, Chair. I'm just 3.3 is the recommendation to the Finance and Governance Committee. So we've already got the recommendation that this needs to go to them to build into their budget setting. What you would normally do as part of that budget setting is determine what your staffing requirement is, what the cost of that staffing is, and the budget that you need to precept for to cover. So if as an appointments committee, you decide that you do require those posts, and then you need the budget to pay for them, you can then put it forward to the finance committee for them to build into their tax their band D calculation for the precept. And this is what the recommendations are trying to achieve for you. So you can decide what you need as a staffing committee for staff for the authority, and then you can add a budget to that for the cost of what that requirement is, and then the budget setting part of that will determine what the effect on the precept will be for you to put in, as it's suggested here, £102,000 into the precept, that will take your precept from the £4 and something that it currently is to whatever it's going to be for the coming financial year. So I think my advice to you would be, decide what you need as a staffing committee for your staffing levels to be, when you want those to start. We can cost those for you, and then that can go forward as a recommendation that the finance committee can then consider the effect of that on the precepts. Sure, I see Sean's got his hand up. He might want to come in and make some comments on that. But your job as a staffing committee is to determine what you need as staffing, with a mind's eye to the cost, but the finance committee is the one that determines whether you've got enough money to meet your needs or not.
Right. I'll go to Sean and I'll come back. I've got you, Barry. I'll pick you up in a minute. Look, I'll just take Sean and then I'll come back to Barry and then Laura.
Thanks, Chair, and apologies for my internet connection. I was just going to back Liz up in what she said, really. I've heard a lot of talk about not having the budget, but obviously the precept will create the budget for it for next year, which is part of what will feed into the precept. We do have the best part of the 65k that we raised in year as well to carry forward. So I would expect that we need to just deem, do we just want the town clerk, or do we want a town clerk plus an assistant? And there's no harm in taking the town clerk initially anyway, and then having an assistant later in the year and building that in for the following year's budget as well, which we'll probably be able to do out of this year's precept that is unspent. So just backing Liz up on what she said, really.
Okay, thank you. Can I go then to Laura, please?
I think Chairman Barry was before me in all
That's all right. I
fairness.
said which way I was going to go.
Okay.
You're next, then Barry's going after you.
But then we need to change the recommendations, because to me it reads to advertise and appoint a town clerk with immediate effect. 3.2, appoint as above and also recruit an additional post. And then 3.3, the finances of that. So that needs to be reworded, please.
Well, we'll come to that in the due course and everybody's had a chance to speak. Barry, you need to unmic, mate.
Sorry, Laura's just said partly what I was going to say. Surely we should be talking about a recommendation here rather than a resolved item. And we can't, I mean, we've been formed as a subcommittee to make decisions, and we can't just kick it in the long grass and say, well, let the finance committee deal with this. We should be in a position, I think, to make a recommendation. I doubt the recommendation we make will ever be totally resolved, because we'll all have different views. I mean, I personally, well, I'm thinking the band of salary must have been set, hasn't been pulled out of fresh air. It must be something that's happening with town clerks or the equivalent post. I don't think that's a massive sum. As Wellingborough, we're going to be a large town council. We need some good people. We've always had good people in the existing borough council, and I don't think we should be parsimonious initially, provided we can afford it. And I'm encouraged to hear what Sean just said. My position is I think we need to recommend tonight, because, I mean, 3.3 actually says propose a staffing budget requirement. Well, how are we going to address that? Can we address that tonight? Sure, we come up with a recommendation, because there's some appendix here which give us that possibility.
Yeah. All right, thank you. I'll come to the recommendation when everyone's had a chance to speak, and I'll try and put it into, I think I've got the gist of what you want to go. Councillor John Paul Carr.
Having attended that session that we had with Leighton Lindsayde Council, it's a very apparent, you know, there is a, not say shortage, but you know, we are going to be competing against other places for a town clerk. You know, both Kettering, both Corby and Northampton are all going to be looking for a similar person in a similar vein as we are. I mean, I don't even know whether town clerk is the correct name to use. I mean, we think town clerk, in my mind, you think of somebody who's got that legal background. So we may have to have a different name for it, but you know, that can be down to the new town council to decide on what that person is going to be called. In regards to the figures, I can clearly see where Councillor Lorman is coming from, but I hasten to add, I agree with Councillor Graves. We're going to have to pay for somebody with the right qualifications and the experience and the knowledge, and this has come from Sean, if I'm right in saying, NAUC has helped with these figures. Officers at the Borough Council have looked at these figures. So, as I said, I did propose the suggestion of going for option 2. I can totally see, again, where our current officers of the Borough Council are suggesting perhaps we appoint a town clerk first, with that town clerk then to appoint another officer, whether it's a part-time or a full-time post. I totally agree with that. Perhaps that could come at a later date during the year, but I certainly think that figure should be put into the budget and into the precept to take us forward. If you recall, we had that whole discussion. There's nothing worse than starting in a job and you've got nobody else to bounce ideas off of. And I just think that 2 heads are always better than 1, always, in any kind of role. But I think Councillor Lorman is right. It is about the money. I'm sorry to say, we've got to be very careful about what we're making a decision on. And I'm sure between Councillor Bell and Councillor Lorman, we can come up with some other recommendations to sort this out, so it's not so defined, but we can just move forward with things.
Right. Thank you. Councillor Anslow, please. Valerie.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Again, these figures, as Councillor Graves said, haven't been plucked out of the air. And if we want a good person for the job, we want the best person for the job, we've got to be prepared to pay. We are going to be a large town council. A lot of responsibility, and I was going to pick up on the points of, you know, we want 2 people. Again, it's about not working alone, and we discussed that last time when we met, that to actually have 2 people in post who are able to support one another would be really, you know, beneficial. So yeah, I think we should make the decision and the recommendation for two posts.
Okay, thank you. Sean.
Thank you, Chair. I was just going to come back to another couple of the points raised. So I'm just going to highlight, obviously, there was a budget in the precept last year for the town clerk, which was actually quite a chunk of the budget, 37.5k, and that was pro rata. So if we're going to pro rata that up, that would make it 50k for 21-22. So effectively, we're only asking for a partial increase to that for the town clerk, and it's then if you want to increase it more for an assistant as well. So I think it's just bear in mind the actual increase just for the town clerk would be quite minimal for the actual town council precept. It'd probably be sort of £1 roughly, or £1.50, somewhere in that bracket to get to just for the town clerk as to the costs that we've got in this report.
Right, thank you. Councillor Harrington.
Yeah, I just want to echo what we've already heard. We must pay the right money for the job. Whoever gets this job has got to look after Wellingborough. So I don't think any of those rates that we see there as being unobtainable. I don't think they're extortionate either. I think it's the correct pay for the correct job. Just wanted to emphasise that.
Okay, thank you, Councillor Absalom. Tony.
Oh, hi. Sorry, I was Anslow. It sounds similar, doesn't it? Yeah, no.
It's been a Berkshireman.
Thank you. No, I agree with Councillor Graves and Harrington, right? Is we've got to have a very knowledgeable person to take us forward. Just remember that the more you pay, obviously, the better you're going to get. And also, we're going to be competing with the other 3 boroughs as well. So as the fellow member said, we've got to have a decent staff, and I will fully echo that, and I will back that.
Okay, thank you. Right, I'm going to try and put some sense around what we've been talking about. Give me an example. At the moment, Wellingborough Town Council has a preset of 64,500 in this financial year. If you take Wokingham, and it's not biased, but it's got a greater population than we have at 46,000. Their preset is 921,552. If you go to Leighton Linsdale, their population is 40,000. Their budget is 2,265,946, just as a comparison. I think what you're trying to say is that I think it's right, you've got to recommend to Finance Committee, and I will seek guidance where it has to go to full council. I think it probably does. But I think what you're saying is you like the sound of option 2 is to appoint a town clerk with the possibility of appointing the second person at the town clerk's discretion as you go through the year. You've got to put into the budget for the preset, which we have to do in the new year anyway, £102,000. So it's already in the budget plus what's not carried over. And they have to be recommendations to the Finance Committee. And then the Finance Committee will have to recommend to full council. The question is, do you want to start advertising for the town clerk now? Or do you want to wait till after you've got approval from the town council, which might be, could be January. But we do need a town clerk. And I think you need to start the advertising. You're not making any commitments. So the sort of recommendation would be take option 2 with option 3, but as recommendations to the Finance Committee and to at least start the advertising. At least you get an idea. You don't have to go ahead with the candidates. Because you're right, you're going to be looking for someone who can run an authority, which is probably the size of Rutland.
Yeah.
And that's the best way to describe it. And they're not going to come for less than 50 or 60,000. At the moment, they could well be a head of department or a head of service somewhere. There may be a few spare, but they're not going to come for 30,000 or 5,000. And if you want the town to do something, you're going to have to spend money. And some of the samples you might want to take over. You might want to do the Wendell Walk. Do you want to lose that to the town? That produces over £80,000 income into the town. You've got a party in the park, the carnival, switching on the Christmas tree lights. They're things that the town clerk and his staff or her staff will have to do in the coming years ahead. We'll probably have help for the first year, but you can bet the unitary authority won't run after year 1. So that's just the idea. So I would recommend that you take option 2 and option 3 and be recommended to the Finance Committee, but start the advertising, the advert for a town clerk. It's going to take you the best part of, we're near the end of November, it's December, you're not going to get any candidates through to January, and we can easily get a council meeting in early January. It's just to approve, to appoint the appointments panel to get a town clerk. I'll hand it over to you. Right, I've got hands up again. Or have you all spoken, or do you want to speak again?
Yeah, I just want to, sorry, Chair, I just want to say that I fully agree what you just said, right? But we must do this ASAP for the staff, the clerk first. Right? Yeah. So we've got to do that. Obviously, wherever the person is coming from, they need to give notices at their previous jobs, right? So that's going to take time as well. So we need to really knuckle down and do this right now, I think.
Oh, that's why I said if you take 3-2, 3-3, and you can call it 3-4 or knock out 3-1. A 3-4, you start the advert now for a town clerk. You've got a job description that can be always tuned out in negotiation. Tony's done. I've seen Barry's hand waving to me, so we'll do Barry next. Then I come to Laura, and then Valerie.
Thank you, Chairman. Yeah, I think what you said is eminently suitable, and I'll go with that. Can I just ask a question? Will this appointment be conducted by the Borough Council's Appointments Committee?
No, it's like town council function. It will be the function of this committee, subject to the town council's approval.
Thank you. And really, I mean, if we went for what you said, and I'm totally with that, you may find that when we start the process, we find someone who actually fits 3-1. You know, has got a dual role, and so I don't think we can be totally predetermining what we go for. I think it's sensible to advertise and see what comes out.
Yeah. What I'm saying is that you advertise for a town clerk, but you budget for a second officer to help him or her. And then you put into the budget 102,000 for the
Yeah.
preset next year, with the
Yeah.
65,000, because you will be creeping up by the end of 21-22, something to about £500,000 in the budget if you want to function as an efficient town council. And you are going to be one of the largest in the country.
Yeah.
So people are going to be looking to you, because you are going to be bigger in Kettering, but I think might be a bit smaller or around the same size as Corby. Sorry, Laura.
I think she's gone to sleep.
Laura. Laura.
Yeah, she's definitely asleep.
I think she's frozen.
Frozen, yeah.
She
what's she
frozen.
thinking?
Well,
I
you
think
know.
she is.
No, she's asleep.
It looks it from that picture, doesn't it, Larry?
Yeah. She's asleep, Chairman. No one else is frozen.
Councillor Lorman.
Oh, well, never mind. Moving on.
Laura.
You woken up?
Everything was frozen, and Paul was like that. You were like that. So it looked quite
We
interesting.
thought you fell asleep in that position.
Hey.
How can I fall asleep with this?
Mike's off and set Laura's, please.
Right. In 3.1, can you take out then after advertise for the and appoint? The and appoint is quite important. I have no problem with advertising. And as you said, if you find somebody so fantastic, then that person can be made an offer anyway. But in 2 appointers above, also recruited, yeah, to be put into the budget.
Yeah.
Proposed staffing budget requirement of approximately 102,000 be submitted to the Shadow Finance Governance Committee of Wellingborough Shadow Town Council and ratification by the Shadow Town Council.
Yeah. I'm happy
no
if
problem with that.
everybody's happy. So 3.1, we'll take out the word appoint, but we'll advertise for town clerk. 2, we should take appointment out and be advertised in due course, shouldn't we? As required. Well, I can say as it is, because it's as required for a second officer. That's as required. And then we just put in all to be confirmed by the town council.
Yeah.
Any objections?
Nope.
Happy with that.
Right. If everybody's happy, we're going to do something unique in the town council's history. We're going to have a vote using the poll, which
Excellent.
Sam is busy typing up madly at the moment.
Yeah, I'm just going to absolutely clarify what I'm putting in the poll, if you just bear with me a second. So,
yeah, that's all right.
So I'm going to do each thing separately. So 3, 1, 2, and 3 completely separately, because I think that makes the most sense. So
Yes.
for 3.1, that is changing to resolve to advertise for a town clerk RFO on salary scale band. I've just taken out a point.
Yeah.
Cool.
I think that we can agree to that one.
Yeah.
So yeah, we'll do that one first.
Well, I'll amend them all so I don't have to. Because if I amend them all first, then it won't take so long to get through them all.
That's
So
right.
just bear
And
with
then
me a second.
Option 2 would be recommend.
So option 2 is recommend. So option 2 is recommend to appoint the town clerk as 3.1 and also recruit an additional post if required during municipal year. So is there any changes
No,
needed to
you
that
don't-
other than change it to recommendation?
Sorry, and 3.2, as we're now going to appoint. Yes, that's right, you are. Recommend. Yeah, you're right, Sam.
Chair, could I ask who you're recommending to?
To the Finance and Governance Committee.
Right, so that's not within their remit, the finance government to appoint and recruit. That's your remit. So you need to recommend your financial commitments to the finance and governance.
Yes, that's what we mean. Yeah.
Right. So option 2 is not a recommend to anywhere. It is to.
No, option 3 is not 2.
Yeah, so we're on option 2. It's not a recommend. It's still a resolve, is it not?
Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So am I changing option 2 to? So we were going to go on 3.2 to resolve to advertise a town clerk. So I'm taking out. So I'm changing this to resolve to advertise a town clerk, as in 3.1, but it's not within 3.1 because it's only within advertising, not appointing. Yeah.
That's right.
Right.
Okay, hang on.
It's all going to be technical problems on the first.
That's fine. So in which case we're not voting on 3.1 then, we're only voting on 3.2. Is that right? because that's the resolution. The resolution of 3.2 is to advertise as in 3.1 and then recruit as
As long as
necessary.
you've taken and appoint out of 3.1.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that sounds right.
Okay. And then just so I'm clear, for 3.3, is there, that just needs to change to a recommendation, is that right?
Recommend
Yes.
a staffing budget to the Shadow Finance and Governance Committee.
Yep.
Of the Town Council.
Okay.
Chairman, can I come?
Yes, go on, Barry.
I probably misheard. I'm sorry. We've taken 3.1 out as I understand it, but surely the town clerk is the prime role that we're advertising for. We don't seem to be mentioning that.
Town
Well,
clerk, we're going to
If I could
advertise.
just clarify for you, Chair, then, and hopefully, Sam, this accords with what you've got. We've got 3.1 as amended to say advertise for a town clerk. So we're amending 3.1.
Yeah.
3.2 is option 2, and we will do advertise as above in 3.1.
Yep.
And then also recruit an additional post part-time if required during the municipal year. That stays the same. So it's just the beginning of option 2 that changes to advertise as above in 3.1.
Okay.
Thank you.
And then 3.3, instead of saying propose a staffing budget, it is recommend a staffing budget.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That's
thank you.
That's it.
Okay, we're all
Right.
clear.
Yeah,
Yeah.
so I'm going to open the poll for 3.1 first. So I should launch that and then you should all be able to see it. I should note for any members of the public who are watching on YouTube, they will not see the polling. So what I'll do is if you can vote within the 30 seconds, please, and then I'll announce what the results are. So
All right, Sam.
if I hit launch polling now, hopefully you now can all see
Yeah.
the poll.
Sam, that's not right. That's come up as and a point.
Oh, that's the wrong one. Okay, hang on. I'm going to end that and I'll send the right one. Sorry.
We'll get there.
Right. I'll try that again. That should be the right one.
Advertise the
Apologies.
town. Yeah, that's the one.
Okay, I have received 7 votes, and that is 100% in favour.
Right, thank you. We're now going to 3.2.
So that is okay. So that should be the right one.
Yeah, everybody happy?
Okay. I have received everyone's votes, and that is 100% in favour. And then
3.3.
3.3 is changed to recommendation. Okay.
Right.
Thank you everyone for voting, and that is 100% in favour.
Right, well, that's all carried. That will now go on and we can at least get on with advertising for the town clerk. Go back to our agenda. I think that's our business concluded. Members of the committee, thank you very much for your help. And I look forward to the appointment of the town clerk, which could be a long session. But thank you very much. I wish you good night.
Sorry, Chair, would the staff keep us updated on that, please?
Yeah, you'll be updated. But I think you would safely say we won't be interviewing before the new year because we need that month of December to get hold of someone. And Nelco will help with the adverts on that.
And you need the finance committee.
Yeah, but we've got some money set aside in the budget at the moment. But you won't get anybody, as you said, Brush before March.
No.
It may even be April.
People have notice periods and so on.
Yeah, unless they work for the unitary and haven't got want to go in a new way. Okay, thank you very much. I'll leave you in peace and wish you a good evening. Thank you all.
Okay,
Bye-bye.
thank you, Chair.